going on, guys? Joker's here, just testing out new equipment, mainly selfie stick turning into a video stick. Anywho, we're going to Owosso, which is roughly about 30 to 45 minutes from where I'm at. But first and foremost, gotta pull out money. You don't get to see that, but I will pull this damn thing out once I get back. I'll get to Owosso and give you a layout as to what we're attempting tournament wise. Alright, so take a good look. See this pretty face again. We'll be in Owosso. Alright, as promised, we are in Owosso. Now the tournament is a $40 buy-in with a $20 add-on at the first break. It is not a rebuy, but you start off at 15,000 in chips and you get a little green chip. And what that green chip signifies is at any time you can turn that thing in and get an extra 15,000 in chips, which is pretty damn dandy if I do say so myself. So what this is a poker room that's more of a hole-in-the-wall type of charity poker room. Perfectly legit, perfectly everything else. And this just goes to show that if you want to play poker, you don't have to go to a casino. You don't have to go to a home game. You don't have to know people and stuff. There's plenty of charity poker rooms out here where you can cut your teeth, and it's a lot cheaper than going to a casino, because we all know what money pits casinos can really be, because quite tempting. Speaking from experience, not judging. But gotta go in. I'm a little late, but you know, fuck it. And let's get started and see if we can get some hands to review. Wish me luck. Alright, we are on break, and luckily I have not met my end. In fact, the exact opposite. I am straight up killing this table. Just straight up. Like, it's not even so much about skill at this point. I'm just hitting. I'm hitting hard, and people just aren't believing in your kid. But I did not count out my chips, but I do know that since I did do that $20 add-on, because if you can, you should, and I did, I'm sitting at roughly just under 50,000 in chips, and I am just straight up running over my table to the point to where I was actually able to get some bluffs in. And I know I got bluffed, but you know, chip preservation is key when it comes down to these types of tournaments. You can't just be chasing down every little thing and not believing people when they bet. But basically, we are running good. But if you know me and my poker play, second round is always my kryptonite. That's when I start running bad, just really, really bad. But I'm not going to get into all the hands right away, but there is one hand that I will get into because it was a key hand. Pretty sure this guy is on tilt. He's been on tilt since before I beat him, but he's just a shell of himself, especially after this particular beat. I had pocket sevens, and I raise it up to 1,400, and he calls, everybody else folds. Immediately on the flop, I get my 7. The other cards are a 4 and a king. No, real threat, but I'm gonna bet anyways because I don't know if he has a king or not. I need to get as much profit out of this as I possibly can. So, of course, I C bet. I'm the first to act, and I make it 17. He snap calls me. That's a good sign. Next card comes out is a 6. No immediate danger, I don't believe. So I bet out again. I bet out 2,400, and he snap calls me again. Then an offsuit jack comes out. I'm relatively sure I'm against some kind of flush draw or whatever, But just in case he is also holding a king, I'm going to charge the hell out of that king. So I make it 8,000 because he was calling everything else. So I might as well try to get as much possible value as I can out of this monster pot. And he decides to fold it. I think maybe he had a flush draw. I was hoping he had a king to go along with that flush draw, but no, it was just a flush draw, I guess, because he didn't show. And I decided to show those cards down as basically not just letting him know, but letting the rest of the table know that I'm not just some kid just betting chips for the sake of betting chips. Mental warfare, if you really want to think about it. But I've, won some hands, lost some hands. I actually bluffed a few times and I actually got through. Shows how, many people are actually starting to respect the play. But, I'm relatively sure that break is about over. And let's see if we can run this thing up and actually cash a tournament this time. Wish me luck, guys. What's going on, guys? Joker's here. Didn't feel like going through all of the hands that I went through last night, so I decided to wait until I woke up. So here's what went down, and I'm going to try to do this in order. But first hand was my ace-9 off. It was a big blind versus me. And flop came out Jack 6-8. He checks, I bet, I'm trying to, take it down right there. He's having none of that, so he calls me down. Next card that comes out is luckily an ace, and I bet, and judging by the fact that he thought that my flop bet was a attempt to steal, this ace is, in his mind, no different, so of course he's gonna flat call me on that. Then the next card that comes out is a king. And I bet he, hero calls me with a jack. I show him the ace and he shows me the jack 10 that he had. And I end up taking down that pot. Next hand is Queen 9. I'm in the big blind. I get to see it for basically for free. And there's like 3 or 4 people in the hand because this is a limp happy table. Like, if there's ever how not to play tournaments, it was basically at this table, because everybody was just limp happy as crazy, not trying to isolate, not trying to nothing. Basically, people were playing with their hands basically face up, with the exception of me. I was raising when I wanted to raise. Anywho, I got to see a flop for free with Queen 9, because Queen 9 with a bunch of people limping, I'm not trying to do nothing with a hand like that. Not until I see exactly what's going down after the flop. Flop goes down, all blanks. I completely miss, so I check, everybody checks around. I'm thinking, okay. Next card that comes out, depending on what it is, I'm going to try to bet. It's a king. Now, I decided to bet, basically trying to see where everybody was at. I mean, if I take it down, then awesome, I take it down. But if I don't take it down, I at least know where I stand, which is basically shutting the hell down and folding to the next card, regardless of what it is. But I ended up betting maybe 1,200, trying to, get a good read on everybody else, and that good read was everybody folded. And the moral of this particular story is don't play scared poker. That's it. Scared poker is not winning poker. And I dare anybody to try to argue that point with me, because I won it. Anywho, next hand that we're going to be going through is my big blind with 9-7. More of the same. I get to see it for free because everybody's limp happy. Flop comes out, deuce, deuce, 3, rainbow. It goes check, check. No reason for anybody to have a deuce or a 3. I mean, I get it. People limped. You could have any 2 cards. But more often than not, people are folding a deuce or a 3. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. Next card that comes out is a 4. Now that is a tricky card, because literally all straight draws make there, and you also develop a straight draw in and of itself if all you have is an ace. So I try to bet it, trying to represent at least an ace, and he snap calls me. Now what that tells me is that he himself has an ace. So nobody's folding a draw for as little of a bet that I put out there. It's an informational bet. It might not be a term, but you know what? I'm going to make it a term. Informational bet. It's not necessarily that I have something. It's me confirming that you have something. Next card, however, is a 7. And I decide to bet this one out. I bet it to the key of, I don't quite remember, but I think it was roughly about 16 to 1800. With what was in the pot, it looked like a steal. That's what I was aiming for it to look like, is a steal. And this guy's been taking beats left and right. I'm relatively sure he was on tilt. He just was not playing anything right. Like, at all. So he decides to call me down, and he confirmed exactly what I thought. He had an ace. He was trying to, take it down, thinking that, maybe I had, a missed straight draw with a 6 or something along those lines. And he was epically wrong, because I ended up rivering the Miracle 7. That, sucks for him, but he could have played that 1,000 times better and actually would have won the hand outright had he not played scared poker. Alright, the next hand we're going to talk about is me being in the big blind with 9-8 of hearts, and for lack of better words, being a complete and total call happy idiot. That's right, we're not going to just talk about our successes, we're also going to talk about our epic fails. In the times when you simply just need to hang your head and just fold instead of just being an aggressive idiot. That's what I'm going to call it. That's why I'm going to stick with it. And we're going to try to fix it in later tournaments, but we got to talk about it now. Anywho, I had 9-8 of hearts, and this is how my notes put it. My ego got ahead of itself, and I tried hero calling with a pair of 9s. That's basically how it was too. Flop came out ace, 9, 10, and he checks it to me. I'm nailing that down as weakness, which in hindsight is not weakness, but I digress. I bet, he calls. Next card that comes out is a jack. I bet, he calls. Next card that comes out is a total and complete blank, and I check it. He bets hard. That's emphasis. He bets hard. Now, could I have gotten away from it? Yes, absolutely, I could have gotten away from it. But with just the way that he bet it, it almost felt like he was trying to steal. Kind of like how I was trying to steal. But in hindsight, he had the jack. And I think he honestly knew I didn't have an ace or anything better than his jack. And I, like the fool that I was, allowed him to hoodwink me. So that was that hand. Next hand is actually quite how I would like to say one of the hairiest hands I had to take part in. It's because I had king queen, right? No diamonds. That's important, so remember that. And the flop comes out queen high, but all diamonds. And I bet like 2,700, and he insta calls. The type of insta calling that either says one of two things: either he has a flush draw, or he already has the flush, and he's just sucking all the chips out from underneath of me. I put him on the draw though, because the odds of making a flush outright, they're really not that great. Has it happened? Yes. Has it happened to me a lot of times, especially online? Yes. But the odds just are not there, especially with the way that I raised it and he just flat called. Now, like I said again, any suited ace king, ace queen, you know, calls there. I get that. But just the way that he didn't re-raise me pre-flop, I didn't put him on any of those hands. So follow me on this. Next card that comes out is the Eight of Hearts. Still not completing anything on the board. Still not completing the diamond draw. And I decided to go with my gut, and I bet hard into this pot. There's roughly about 10 to 11,000 in this pot. I bet out 8,000. Like flat out. If he's got a diamond draw, he's gonna pay for it. Point blank, the end. And he ends up think tanking it for at least maybe 30 to 45 seconds. The longest 30 to 45 seconds of my particular life at that table. And he decides on folding. And thank God for that fold, because I felt like that diamond was coming. I really felt like it was. But hindsight, I think I played that exactly how it needed to be played. Exactly. I wasn't taking no chances on that diamond coming out on the river at all. But I told him, it's like, yeah, get that flush draw out of here. It's like, well, if you would have bet a little less, I would have called. It's like, no shit. That was the whole idea of my 8,000, for you not to call. Like, I understand that I might have, like, you know, killed a little bit of my profit, but I'll take a little bit of a little less of a profit over not getting any profit any day of the week. Just saying. Next hand we're about to talk about is actually one of those types of hands where you don't expect to catch, but you catch like a mofo. It was Jack 5 off in the big blind, and everybody limps. Like I said, limp happy table that we got ourselves at, and I decided to check it down. The flop comes out 10-5-5. Now, I'd be a complete idiot to bet this. A complete idiot. Because how many people have a 5? How many people are willing to represent a 5? I'd be raping myself of all profits. So of course I check. Checks all the way around. I'm not surprised. People actually have to hit a little bit to actually, you know, call down any kind of bets. But the card I need to come out does come out. It's not the ace. It's the king. People love limping with kings. And I'm not talking about pocket kings. I'm talking about king X in their hands. They love limping with those types of hands. The turn comes a king, and that's when I start betting. I bet out 2,000. And guy who acts immediately after me, he decides to put in a raise. He raises me up minimum for 4,000. I'm not re-raising nothing. I'm not doing anything but just flat calling, because I got this guy on the hook now. I got him in my trap, exactly where I wanted him to be. Next card that comes out is what was it? Is a 7. 7 of diamonds. Doesn't complete anything, and I bet hard into him. I bet 6K, 6,000. And my reason for my sizing is because he already doesn't believe me. Already. So why not take him for a little more than what he re-raised me for? I mean, I'm not going to go balls out and go all in, because that's going to force him out. But if I put in 6K, that gives him an opening to either flat call me or to re-raise me. And believe me, we're hoping for the latter. We want to be re-raised in this particular juncture. I'm not afraid of him having any type of 5. And if he ends up, rivering a full house, then that's a hill I'm willing to die on. That's it. But I put out 6,000, and he snap calls me. Not believing in your kid. First mistake. Maybe not a mistake, but in this case, it's a mistake. He flips over King 9. Exactly what I thought. He had a king. I show him my Jack 5. He just, smirks at me. He's like, nice hand. It's like, thank you. That's how that particular cookie crumbles. Next, in my notes, because all my notes are on my phone, so I had to record them onto the notebook. So how much work I'm willing to do for you guys, along with moving around and stuff, because having the same background is kind of boring. I know, especially off of all the poker vlogs and poker videos I watch. None of them have the same background. So believe me, I'm working on it, but we're getting there. Anywho, after that particular break point, first hand I come up to is Ace Queen off. And as I put it in my notes, took balls of steel to actually continue and complete through. It's exactly what it took. So, flop comes out. Ace 9 6. Now, I get it. Ace Queen, that flop doesn't look scary at all, right? Shouldn't. To any of my normal poker players out there, it's a great flop. And I viewed it as a great flop. But I put out 2,400 as a C bet, expecting to basically have the guy fold to me. Because, flops like that, they end up going pre-flop, bet, call, after a flop, bet, fold. We all know how that normally goes. Anywho, he raises me. This is where it gets a tad bit hairy, because he's not raising me just a measly like 4,800 or a 5K chip. He goes 6,000 on me. 6,000. I'm like, shit. Did I really just come up against Ace King? Or Ace 9? Or a stupidly played Ace 6? Did I? So of course I'm calling, because there's 2 cards to come and I could obviously improve. Next card that comes out is an 8. I check it to him. He wants to be the aggressor. Let's let him be the aggressor. This is the best way that I know how to control the pot, the best way that I can. So I check it to him, and he does not pause. He goes straight into betting another 6,000. Not folding. Not folding at all. The only thing that really beats me that I foresee on this is Ace King. And again, as I've said in previous hands, this is a hill I'm willing to die on. because there's not enough that conceivably beats me. Now, is 3 of a kind an option? Yes. But, you know, it's poker. You gotta take risk. If you don't take risk, you're not gonna win. That's it. So I called the 6,000, and the river card is another 8, giving 2 pair with a queen kicker. There's nothing out there higher than my queen other than the ace, but you know, my poker players know how that works, so I don't have to, you know, go into tutorial mode on that particular thing. But I check it to him, and he thinks about it for a little bit, and he decides to up the ante. He decides to bet out 11,400. He could have bet out 11,500, but no, he decided to go the 400 route. Not that it matters, I was calling either way. And he ends up showing me ace 10. Now, my thought process on his play, on what he was thinking, was the first bet was actually supposed to be the only bet. That 6,000 bet was supposed to scare me off. He didn't put me on an ace at all. The next bet, he was trying to represent ace-king. And to his credit, he was successfully representing ace-king or anything that was better than what I had. Unfortunately for him, I'm stubborn. And there are certain hills I'm willing to die on. And that is one of those hills. Especially in live play. Online, maybe not, because I get my ass kicked online all the time. Doesn't matter how well you play, the shittiest cards beat you. That's all for me lamenting that. Anywho, the very last hand that we have to go through is actually no. That's not the last hand that we need to go through. I didn't put it in my notes, but I just remembered it, and I'll be damned if I'm not going to put it in there, because the guy earned this win over me. Outplayed me every which way. Thinking about it, I could have done it better, but that's not the next hand. That's the hand after this one. So let me get to the next hand. Anywho, next hand is 10-3. Now, this 10-3, I'm in the big blind. And surprise, surprise, it limps around. So let's see a flop. Let's see what happens. Flop comes out 2-4 king, spade, spade, heart. Alright? Flush draws are out there. I check it, expecting to fold to any and all bets, because I got 10-3. 10-3 off to be exact. So I literally have nothing that goes with anything with this fucking flop. Like, sure, I have a runner-runner straight draw, but the odds of a runner-runner coming out are not great. They're just not. Anyways, it checks around, and Jack comes out. This is where I start to open up a little bit, because that Jack really doesn't change anything. Because the king is out there. And if nobody's willing to represent the king, that means that Jack means nothing, and I can represent the king. If I'm correct. And nobody's slow playing a king or anything like that. So I put out a small little 1,800 bet, and everybody folds except for a guy who's next to me. He snap calls it. I instantly put him on a jack. I do not think he has a king. I put him on a jack or a flush draw. Either way, neither one is there. And we go to a river. The river is the 7 of clubs. Not completing anything. Short of maybe like, you know, a lucky 2 pair hand or something like that. He checks it to me, and I decide to just go for it. I don't rip it all in. I put in 2,200. Now, my reasoning for 2,200 is if I go any higher, that's an obvious steal. It's obvious. I have to bet over 1,800, and I have to make it look like I want him to call so I can get as much profit as I possibly can. So I put out 2,200. This guy is a thinking player, but I don't think he thinks as deeply as he should be thinking at this particular point. Because he thinks about it for maybe 15 to 20 seconds before just folding. He came close to calling, but he decides to fold it. And out loud he says, I put you on a flush draw. And even then, like, even if you didn't have a flush draw, I'm not sure if I would have beat you, anyways. That tells me that he probably would have beat me had he called me. But it was a soul read in the fact that everything out there beat me. Everything. Like, short of him having, like, the crappiest of all crap hands that you could possibly have, anything and everything beat me out there. But judging off the fact that he was willing to check on the flop told me that he didn't have a king beat. And if I could represent a king, I could get him to think I had a king. And that's exactly what I did. Now, a key hand that I did not have in my notes, but I do remember it vividly because I played it completely wrong. It's a hill that I should have died on, to be perfectly frank. But I didn't. I had ace-jack, and instead of raising it, I did the worst thing you possibly could do with it. I flatted. I limped. There was not a raise, and I just let it go on through. So the guy next to me ends up limping in and stuff like that. Flop comes out, king, queen, deuce. Rainbow. Check, 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 I check. The guy next to me bets out 2,000. One guy calls, and I end up calling because I have a straight draw. Any 10 helps me here, or an ace. Flop, well, not flop. Turn card is a jack. I check it to this guy because at this particular moment all I have is a jack. I can't represent anything else. I just can't. This guy goes hard at it. He goes from betting 2,000 to 15,000. That's most of my stack. Guy on the other side of the table, he decides on a fold. And I ultimately decide on a fold, showing him my ace-jack. Guy, I did make the right fold. Do not get me wrong. I did make the right fold. But he showed me king-queen. He had two pair. And after thinking about how I could have gone out with that hand versus how I did go out with a different hand, I almost feel like I would have rather have gone all in with that hand and taken my chances than go all in with the hand I did have and just take it, on the chin like that. Well, as it turns out, as you can see, there's nobody behind me. This is what you would call the sit down of shame. But honestly, I can't say that I played that badly. In fact, I just got complimented by a guy who got knocked out right along with me that I was probably one of the better players at the table because he was watching me like a hawk the entire time, which is probably the best compliment that any poker player can really ask for. But me and him got knocked out on the way to people making it to the final table, so technically you can call us the Bubble Boys. But the hand that knocked me out because I was short stacked, I may have called some hands that I could have, folded and just watched them play through. But the hand that knocked me out, I had ace-3, and I only had 23,000 in my stack, and I decided to go for it. There's only 5 people at the table, so I was trying to steal blinds. Sue me. There was another guy who was just as short stacked as I was, literally only had 5,000, 6,000 to his name. And then another guy literally just snapped us right off. He had pocket sixes, and flop comes out, giving me a draw to the 4 for the straight. Odds are, not too bad because, I have the ace. I'm the only one that has an ace, so I can catch an ace or a 4. And unfortunately, on the river, it's not an ace or a 4, it's another 6, giving the guy trip sixes. The devil's sign, the devil's hand, knocking us both out. So, overall, not a bad game. Wish there was more people playing. It was relatively dead. Even the people playing said that, it's a lot deader than what it normally is, especially on a Saturday. But, gotta find a place to eat, or find something to eat and take home. Gotta drive that hour of I forget the word, but I gotta think about the hands I could have played better, and just overall just score myself on how I think I played. Because anybody who's a poker player who doesn't do that, I tend to ask how deeply you take this game of poker. So hopefully this gets edited down and we get to see this in a full-on video. Have a good one, guys. Joker's out.